day everyone, welcome to our laboratory experiment number 6 titled, Pipe Assembly. In this experiment we aim to, first, determine the pressure loss due to friction in a smooth pipe with an internal diameter of 6.5 millimeters. Second, determine the friction coefficient in a smooth pipe with an internal diameter of 6.5 millimeters. Third, determine the pressure loss in an angle seat valve. Fourth, determine the pressure loss in a 45-degree elbow. And lastly, determine the pressure loss in a diaphragm. Before using the pipe assembly, always remember to empty the valve and make sure that the drain tank is left without water and the pump seizes up. When draining, we encountered a problem in which the pressure gauges kept overflowing, resulting in time-consuming troubleshooting. However, after resolving the issue, we continued with the experiment.
The following clips are the setups and trials for exercises 3, 11, 17, 25, and 31. following are the different observations and conclusions for the exercises. Exercise 3. Observation. As the flow rate increased, a greater pressure drop was observed along the smooth pipe. The pressure difference between the inlet and outlet was clearly shown in the manometer readings. The flow remained steady throughout the test, and air was completely expelled from the pipe, ensuring accurate measurements. In conclusion, this experiment helps the student to observe the relationship between fluid velocity and pressure loss due to friction in a smooth 6.5 mm diameter pipe. As the flow rate increased, the pressure drop also increased along the 6.5 mm pipe. The experiment also gives an insight into the principles of pipe flow and head loss. Exercise 11. Observation. As the flow velocity increased, the Reynolds number also increased, resulting in a noticeable change in the friction coefficient. At lower Reynolds numbers, the friction coefficient was higher, while at higher Reynolds numbers, it decreased. In conclusion, the experiment helps us determine the relationship between the friction coefficient and the Reynolds number. The experiment demonstrates how crucial the Reynolds number is as an indicator to define flow characteristics and frictional loss. Exercise 17. Observation. As the flow rate increased, the pressure loss across the angle seat valve also increased. The manometer clearly showed higher pressure differences at higher flow rates. The flow remained stable during the test, allowing accurate measurement of the pressure drop through the valve. In conclusion, this experiment helps us determine the pressure loss with respect to an angle seat valve. The experiment also highlights the importance when designing a hydraulic system which requires precise flow control to optimize fluid movement throughout the system. The experiment also emphasizes how crucial it is to take into consideration valve-induced loss. Exercise 25. Observation. As the flow rate increased, the pressure loss across the 45 degrees elbow also increased. The manometer readings showed a clear rise in pressure difference with higher flow rates. In conclusion, this experiment helps us to determine how directional water flow changes in a pipe with a 45-degree elbow. By adjusting the flow rate, it shows that the pressure loss increases because of the energy and water scattering at the bend of the pipes. This experiment helps us to understand that pipe sizing and efficient fluid transport are very crucial, especially in civil engineering applications. Exercise 31. Observation. As the flow rate increased, the pressure loss across the diaphragm also increased. The manometer showed a clear rise in pressure difference between the inlet and outlet. In conclusion, this experiment helps us determine and observe the pressure loss that occurs when fluid flows in a diaphragm. The experiment shows that as the flow rate is increased, the pressure across the diaphragm also increases, which indicates a proportionality between the velocity of flow and head loss. It also helps us determine the effect of a sudden change in a hydraulic system, which changes the flow of the fluid. Thank you for watching.